Dear people of Kaduna State, on behalf of the Kaduna State government, I wish to commend the sacrifices made by the residents of the state since the quarantine orders came into effect on the 26th of March 2020. These orders, which were initially imposed for 30 days, were extended for another 30 days on 26th April 2020 to further protect citizens from the spread of COVID-19. Over the last 60 days, the people of Kaduna State have endured many inconveniences as they complied with the quarantine orders. Many of you have embraced the exercise of personal responsibility, including wearing face masks when outdoors, washing hands with soap and water regularly, observing physical distancing, and avoiding large crowds. I urge you to continue with these new habits and behavior in order to keep our communities safe. The state government acknowledges with gratitude the fact that many citizens understood that the quarantine orders were designed as a defensive measure to protect the vast majority of our people from suffering and death that COVID-19 could cause. Your compliance with the orders has helped to reduce the number of infected persons and kept fatalities to a minimum. We thank you for your support and understanding. In this quest to protect our people, the government decided as a solemn duty to prioritize lives. We chose to preserve the well-being of our citizens so that they can safely resume the pursuit of livelihoods in the shortest possible time. We do not take for granted the support of our citizens and the gravity of the sacrifices you all have made. It is true that there are still active COVID-19 cases in our state, and we acknowledge that without your sacrifices, the number of persons infected could have been higher. Government and citizens must continue to work together to keep everyone safe. The danger from COVID-19 has not gone away. It remains a very infectious and disruptive disease. Therefore, to avoid its perils and protect lives, citizens must henceforth take the lead as individuals with responsibility for themselves, their families, and their societies. Personal responsibility is the weapon that every citizen must wield to ensure proactive protection for themselves and others from infection by COVID-19. When the decision was taken on Saturday, 25th April 2020, to extend the initial lockdown by 30 days, the government also charged a committee of senior officials to begin planning a post-lockdown scenario for the state. That committee has since submitted its report on how to safely reopen Kaduna State, and it identified availability of realistic health data as one crucial factor for making any decision. This is an important matter given that COVID-19 infection in our state and in neighboring states is high. Many of the cases recorded in Kaduna so far have either been from persons who have a history of interstate travel or from their contacts. After 60 days, the state government has reviewed the quarantine orders. The governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, has approved the recommendation to extend the partial lockdown regulations for another 2 weeks, with adjustments to permit the reopening of certain sectors. These measures are intended to preserve the state's ability to protect citizens, empower citizens to lead the fight against COVID-19, and make necessary adjustments to the partial lockdown order to permit the safe resumption of the pursuit of livelihoods in more sectors. The Kaduna State government is conscious of the sacrifices that citizens have made and the many challenges that remain in keeping them safe from COVID-19. This is why the state government has adjusted and extended the quarantine orders by 2 weeks to empower citizens to more steadfastly carry forward the fight against COVID-19. Preservation of the relaxations in this extension requires that citizens demonstrate greater compliance with laid down health protocols, particularly the wearing of face masks outside the house, observance of physical distancing, regular hand washing with soap and water, the avoidance of large gatherings. Violation of these protocols will compel the government to reinforce restrictions. A spike in COVID-19 infections will also necessitate a tightening of these restrictions. This week, the relaxation of movement will be affected on Wednesday and Thursday. From Monday, 1st June 2020, the revised regulations will come into effect. They will give citizens a 3-day window every week to shop for food and other essentials. Until otherwise stated, the lockdown-free days are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Temporary neighborhood markets will continue to operate from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on these 3 days, but citizens can move from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on these lockdown-free days. Informal markets are not allowed, and those flouting regulations by turning streets into markets are advised to stop. The adjusted orders also expand the ability of citizens to resume the pursuit of livelihoods in permitted sectors subject to compliance with health and safety protocols, including physical distancing. Private sector firms that meet these requirements will also operate on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. This window also allows others like vulcanizers, welders, mechanics, and providers of similar services to operate on these days. However, the prohibition of interstate and intercity travel remains. Government officials and mobile courts will enforce this ban to prevent people from spreading the virus through non-essential movement. In addition, the nighttime curfew that has been enforced across the state still remains from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Schools, places of worship, and markets will remain closed under the adjusted orders. The relevant government officials and agencies will be engaging with religious leaders, transport unions, traditional institutions, market unions, school proprietors, and other stakeholders as may be identified from time to time to discuss the conditions and circumstances for safe reopening of these sectors. Restaurants will be allowed to open strictly to offer takeaway services. However, bars, sporting venues, and event centers remain closed, as are hotels that have not specifically been licensed as essential service providers during this period. Kaduna State has so far conducted 1,900 tests and had recorded a total of 189 COVID-19 cases as at 25th May 2020. Ideally, the state would prefer to conduct so many more tests, but we are constrained by a host of factors. During the 2-week extension, the state will continue to expand its public health response, including testing capacity. The Ministry of Health team will continue to conduct more tests in identified hotspots. The public sector will also use the 2-week extension to prepare for limited resumption. Heads of ministries, departments, and agencies will ensure that government offices are reconfigured for physical distancing and that hand-washing facilities are made available. The state government will continue to support low-income, poor and vulnerable households and residents with some food.